Very warm welcome to this webinar organized by CRY and DevelopAid jointly. My name is Devesh. I am a chartered accountant and I'm a part of a specialized team within CRY which is called Grant Risk Management. This team is purely focused on audit and compliances of partners and other risk related to grants. I have today the privilege of anchoring this webinar. Today we have received actually the registration of around 1200 participants, which was above our limit of 1000. So what we did, we are streaming this webinar live on YouTube. So those who can't log in here can watch it live on the YouTube also. With us, we have Pooja Marwaha, our Chief Executive Officer, Child Rights and You. She comes with immense experience of handling national organization like CRY. I would like to invite her to say a few words about CRY and how actually CRY dealt with the legal compliances over the years. Pooja, please.
Thank you, Devesh. Afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I fully know that all of you will want us to jump into what is currently a really large issue for all of us in the sector. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about us and our long-standing partnership with Sanjay Agarwal at DevelopAid. So really that CRY as being one of the organizations that sort of pioneered the whole concept of being an Indian and an Indian funded organization. One of the things that we have always held very dear to us is accountability. Accountability to the child in whose name we stand and whose money we take, and in whose name we take money, and to the donors, of course, who actually are trusting us with their little money. Most of CRY's money comes from individual donors who don't give us very large amounts. And therefore, accountability becomes a very serious issue for us. So almost 25 years ago, we entered into this partnership with AccountAid and Sanjay. So much so, I think that we've really grown and developed together. And what we have grown and developed together is some of the knowledge that we want to share with you today really is that if we are to look at compliances in our sector, compliances to existing laws, actually helping small NGOs and individuals to sort of almost navigate these very labyrinthic paths sometimes, of whether it is ATG or 12A or FCRA, these have been very difficult and are often changed, the whole compliances. And if we were to actually create this at large for the sector and empower everybody, CRY saw this as something that we should do as part of our larger role in civil society. And we therefore created and have implemented for 25 years a co-held sort of model, which is called Grant Risk Management, but really is around, it's a unique combination, I believe, of not just ensuring compliances and auditing and studying what our partner NGOs are doing, but also of ensuring that their hand is held. And as part of this process, we have, there have been so many publications. There are publications, trainings, capacity buildings, so that we as a sector and larger people, should, for us, of course, it has primarily for a long time just been our partners who were able to avail of this. But we also realize that we have to expand this. If there is knowledge that any of us hold in this sector, which is valuable for everybody, I think it's important to share it where it is needed. And therefore, we've extended to things like we've done auditor webinars. because we realize many times NGOs can be misled or led by their auditors into doing things that may or may not be compliant. So I do really believe that I don't believe that this should be a matter of fear. I think compliance is just something that is, right? If you have a labor law, if you have a compliance law, it has to be complied with. It is as simple as that. There is no ideology, there is no, there should be no fear, and there should be no favor in this space. To say, hum sambhal lenge. That is something I think that we just should not even think of for ourselves. And therefore, we find that because of this focus that CRIES had for 25 years on compliances, when regimes tighten or there is a new ruling, I think our capacity to absorb and ensure that everybody complies with it is just that much better. So really today, without much ado, I will hand it back to Devesh and to Sanjay. But I must just say, as I'm closing, that I think our desire to spread this to more people, this knowledge and this the work that we have done was really what brought about this series of webinars. We're calling them Compliance Matters. If we're overwhelmed by the response, if there are specific requirements, I think this is something we can make a habit of. We at CRIE at least will be very, very delighted to host these and carry on with these dialogues and these conversations that I hope will begin today. So thank you very much. And I just want to say to all of you, let's comply. Let's be alert. Let's be quick. Let's be vigilant. And let us adapt to our changing environments as fast as we can. Because that is what will keep us alive, and it will keep us compliant. And it will help us with the reputation that we seem to have got outside, that we are not bothered about these things. I think it's very important for us as a sector to say we are compliant, and whatever comes our way, we can sort of take it. So over to you, Sanjay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Pooja, for your comments and valuable insights. Being a part of CRIE for last 15 years, I know firsthand how much CRIE has contributed on creating the awareness and accountability on legal issues in the sector. I would now like to introduce our three of our speakers. We have with us Tirthankar Roy. He's my very old colleague in GRM team. By profession, he's a chartered accountant. He comes with the extensive experience of NPOs, auditing and legal compliances. Tirthankar today will be helping us in anchoring the question and answers round during the webinar. We also have Aditya Agarwal with us, a practicing chartered accountant. He has been involved in various audits, financial reviews, and advices for national and international NGOs since 2012. Aditya will help us in converting the presentation into Hindi for the participants who have chosen the Hindi language. We also have Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. He is a chartered accountant and in practice since 1986. He is one of a pioneer in NPO accounting and legal compliances. He comes with enormous experience and knowledge. He is quite well known in the sector and needs a very little introduction now. I would now request Sanjay ji to take this webinar forward. Sanjay ji.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Deveshi, for your kind words. And this is indeed a pleasure, to connect with all of you. Let us start straight away with, first, let me, as Developer Aid has requested, let me, take you through some of the tech aspects of this webinar. First thing is that, you need to choose a language. And, for those of you, who have chosen English, who are comfortable with English, there's no problem. But those of you who would like to hear the Hindi translation or the Hindi presentation, they need to actually select French in the interpretation box, which 1 second. So here's a glitch. I need to. Yeah. So yes, back again. As I was saying, you can select instead of Hindi, you'll have to select French because there is a tech issue and Zoom doesn't show Hindi. So nevertheless, you will hear Hindi only, which is not good. Second thing is that asking questions. If you want to ask any questions, then what you need to do is to post these in the Q&A box. Now the Q&A box is down below. You can see at the bottom of your screen there is Q&A, and here is where you post your question, and then sooner or later we will answer these. I must tell you, we will answer all questions which we can, and whatever we cannot, we will take them home very carefully and think over it and get back to you. But please stay on if we are not able to deal with your question, and we will, once the webinar ends, we will try and answer all the questions. In terms of using chat can be very distracting, as you all know. And what we've done is that we will be,
आपके bottom screen पे आपको दिख रहा होगा chat का option.
Participants, as that can be very distracting for others. If you feel an irresistible urge to speak and you want to say something, raise your hand. We might have nearly 1,000 hands, so we will probably not be able to give everyone a chance because time is limited, but we will try and see wherever it is important for a person to speak, the host will give permission. So this is how you do. You raise your hand, and once your hand has been responded to, please lower it again. Otherwise, it will keep showing as up. Now, of course, if you have to use the mic in webinars, normally mic using the mic is very difficult. But if you have to use it, then you will have to just raise your hand and then keep your mic on. The host will turn the mic on. At the end of the webinar, you will also, after the webinar ends, you will, or whenever you leave the webinar, you will get a prompt, which will be a survey. And well, there will be questions in Hindi as well as in English. We request that you respond to those questions, which will help us improve and make these webinars better in future. Okay, so with that, I will start into get into the main session. And welcome once again, all of you. We will talk about two issues here. One is FCRA changes, and the second is how to get your FCRA renewed. So in terms of the first topic that we are talking about, FCRA changes. Before I get into that, DevelopAid has requested that I tell you that DevelopAid is first of all a Section 8 company, which is which has a mission of enhancing public trust, accountability, financial literacy, governance, etc. And towards that, it works with auditors, with accountants, with and tries to work with the public to understand and improve accounting and accountability in the sector. In addition to that, DevelopAid has said that you should make sure that first of all, it believes very much that philanthropy should be socially responsible and accountable. Therefore, it supports compliance with both the letter and the spirit of the law, and which will obviously keep all of us happy, as well as the government also are a little bit happier. This presentation is therefore meant to improve understanding of the law. It is not meant to understand the law in order to break it or bypass it. If you learn anything here, if you want to take a decision based on that, please do consult with your advisors before doing that, because this material is very, very general, very, very generic, and it may not apply to you in the way we think. Okay, so in terms of, when we talk about FCRA changes, there is this confusion about, whether it is intimation or approval. I will come to that in a little bit. But first of all, what is important is that there are at least 5 types of changes which you need to intimate or approve to the FCRA, or get it approved by the FCRA department. First is, FC6A, which you need to file online for name or change of address within the state. Now, if you're going to change your state, then you must actually apply again for FCI registration. Then, by filling form FC3, which will then give you you will get a new number, because FCI numbers vary by state. Second form that you need to file is called FC6B, and that is for changes in your nature or objects. Now, this is a form which we will discuss in much greater detail later on. The third form is, FC6C, which is for change in designated bank account. If there is, you want to change your bank account, then you need to file this form online. FC6D is for opening FC utilization.
FC6D जो है आपका ओपनिंग ऑफ FC यूटिलाइजेशन बैंक अकाउंट खोलने के लिए है. बैंक अकाउंट बंद करना चाहते हैं यूटिलाइजेशन, तो उसका अभी कोई फॉर्म नहीं है. FC6E जो आपके बोर्ड या प्रमुख सदस्यों के उसमें कोई बदलाव है तो उसके थ्रू आप इंटीमेट कर सकते हैं. जी, इस प्रेजेंटेशन में हम FC6B और 6C के बारे में विस्तार में चर्चा करेंगे. नेचर में बदलाव FC6B. FC6B 3 तरीके की चेंज से डील करता है. पहला हो गया आपका चेंज इन नेचर, तीसरा आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन का चेंज हो गया, और दूसरा रजिस्ट्रेशन का चेंज हो गया, तीसरा आपका ऑब्जेक्ट्स का चेंज हो गया. जी, आप FC6B ऑनलाइन फाइल कर सकते हैं fcraonline.nic.in 15 दिनों के अंदर. दोनों चीज़ों पे चेंज है. ये आपका FC पंजीकृत संगठन पे भी है और पूर्व अनुमति के तहत संगठन है उन पे भी अप्लाई करता है. तो अब ये बताएंगे सूचना के लिए यूज़ करना चाहिए या अप्रूवल के लिए यूज़ करना चाहिए. हमें भी नहीं पता इस बारे में. जो रूल्स हैं वो कहते हैं कि आपको इंटीमेट करना चाहिए इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली 15 दिनों के भीतर. इसका मतलब ये है, अगर आप कोई चिट्ठी भेजेंगे या फॉर्म फाइल करेंगे तो वो सही होना चाहिए, पर रियलिटी में FCRA डिपार्टमेंट इन सारे फॉर्म्स को रोक के रख लेता है. जी, इसी ध्यान रखना चाहिए इसमें, क्योंकि रूल्स क्लियर नहीं है. सूचना का मतलब
is that you should assume approval whenever you are
आपके बदलाव आ रहा है तो, और अगर सूचित करना है तो अगर
objects, and if you are just changing the registration, then perhaps you can say that this is an intimation. That means that for example, if their registration, the society registrar has changed, or there is some a number. For example, in many cases, it's renewal happens every 5 years or 3 years in some states. There you have to simply think of it as intimation. So in terms of processing time, FC6B has been offline for a very, very long time. It has only come online recently. So we don't really have any benchmarks or experience in terms of how much time it will take to get this approved. But I would say that you should assume at least 3 months, and maybe as much as 9 or 12 months, or maybe even more, for the form to be processed and approved. Now, what we've done is we've been fortunate enough to see how the form looks like, and we have some screenshots here, which was not possible earlier. First thing, that when you get into the form, you have to go to fcraonline.nic.in, use your login ID and password, and after doing that, select form FC6B. And when you do that, this is the screen that you will see. Let me make it a little bigger. Yeah. So this is the screen that you will see. And in this screen, this screen will show you what is the information which FCRA
तो
department.
आपकी ये जो संस्था की जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है FCRA डिपार्टमेंट के पास, वो यहाँ पे आपको दिखाई जाएगी.
So for example, it shows the details of the association. Now all this, all this graffiti that you see, the black ink, that is, our work. We've just, tried to hide the name of the organization for which this form was filed. So this information will be there. It will show you details of the association, name, registration number, nature of the association. For example, in this case, it shows social, and then aims and objects of the association. Once you seen this and after doing that, you have to get into change in nature. You've selected change in nature, and this is what I want to talk about. So change in nature under FCRA, organizations are actually classified as 5 types. NGOs, of course, there are political organizations which are not allowed FCRA at all, but other organizations are allowed. They are classified into 5 categories, and that is cultural, religious, economic, educational, and social. For our convenience, we call this CREES. CREES is an acronym to remember what we are talking about. And just as in cricket, if you play out of the crease, you lose your wicket and you are stumped out. Similarly, in the case of FCRA, if you work beyond your nature, beyond the nature which you are registered for, then you will probably be stumped out by the FCRA department. So what is this nature? How do you find this out? You can check your nature by going online FCRA website and looking at your registration number, and the entire list of FCRA registered organizations is available, and each of them, what is the nature, is shown against that. Now many people have been asking us that what do these different kinds of nature mean, and I'm going to talk about that. Actually, NGOs can be multi-natured. Of course, NGOs are in general good-natured, but in addition to that, they can be multi-natured also. This is a very, very broad classification. And beyond this, we will get deeper into what each of these means. So what is cultural? So we actually have no idea what cultural is, because as far as FCRA is concerned, the word is not defined anywhere in FCRA rules. And this slide which you are looking at is based actually on a very nice booklet which FCRA department and ICAI had done together in about 2005 in the Vigyan Bhavan. And there, they had suggested that FCI department written that cultural means all these things, celebration of national events, preservation and promotion of cultural heritage, cultural shows, maintenance of historical, places of historical or cultural importance, all these things. Then the same booklet also tells us what religion means. And, in terms of religion, these are the various things which are religious. Involve, for example, celebration of religious functions or festivals, publication of religious books or literature, dissemination of material contained in the scriptures, all that. And of course, you must understand, you must remember that actually religion itself is not defined anywhere, but anything which people believe in is religion. Some people think that even cricket is a form of religion, and I would certainly agree that in India, cricket is a bit of a religion. But if you want to play cricket, you don't need to tick religious as far as FCR is concerned. Now, economic is another categorization. And in economic, there are various kinds of things which NGOs do to help people to generate more income for themselves, for the people. That is economic activity, and it could be agricultural, it could be rural development programs, it could be animal husbandry, vocational training, so many things. However, it also says that, if you are doing commercial activities, then that is not, that is not part of the program purpose. That is not part of the program purpose. In terms of educational is relatively simple. We all understand what education is. So this is also listed here, including non-formal education, adult literacy, research. If you're conducting research into something, that is also considered education. Under Income Tax Act, of course, the definition of education is very, very limited. And finally, we come to the biggest category of all, which is social. And social is a bit of a confusing issue, because what is social and what is not social is not easy to figure out. So there is a long list of what is social. All kinds of things are social, and here the list goes on and on: welfare of children, welfare of women, welfare of old people, help to victims' rights, digging of bore wells, sanitation, welfare of tribal communities, wildlife, environmental program. All these kinds of things are social. Okay. So then finally,
फिर हम आते हैं क्रीज चेंजेस पे आते हैं. अगर आप नेचर चेंज करना चाहते हैं सोशल से कल्चरल, कल्चरल से इकोनॉमिक या एजुकेशन, या अगर कोई आप एट्रीब्यूट जोड़ना चाहते हैं, तो आप यहाँ पे यस पे क्लिक करिए और फिर उसके बाद चूज करिए कि आप क्या चेंज करना चाहते हैं या क्या बढ़ाना चाहते हैं. अगर आप रिलीजियस पे चूज करते हैं, तो धर्म को चूज करते हैं, तो फिर आपको ये धर्म का
is a feature for any other also. So that's what you would do in terms of change of nature. However, change of nature is a broad classification, and under that there is a smaller classification. There's a finer classification, which is your objects. So when you file your form FC3 A or B, you would have written down there what are the aims and objects, what are the things that you're going to do. So this actually allows only, I think, 2000 characters, including spaces, where you would have written down what you're going to do, what are the activities that you're going to do. And actually, legally speaking, those are the only things that you can do under FCRA. So if you have classified as educational, but you've not written research in your application, then you can't really do research even while you are educational. In practice, these problems pop up only when there is scrutiny by the FCRA department. So many people are unaware of this. I remember a case where an NGO, which was involved, which was registered for social activities, they spent some money on repair of a monument. And the department said that, well, this is a cultural activity and you shouldn't have really done this. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind. Now, these aims and objects are very, very important. And if you find that your aims and objects have changed, then you really need to think whether you have to file this form or not. So again, here is what you have to do. You have to tick yes, and then add the aims and objects of the association in terms of whatever 2000 characters that you can put down, whatever you are going to do now and for the next so many years. Then the third part of the form, third option is change in registration, for which you have to select this option that there is a change in your nature. And after you've done that, then you have to give the name of the act. So if the act which is, it is so you can select these various acts which are listed here, and you can, if the act is not listed here, then you can even write it, you choose others and then write the name of the act. For example, Bombay Public Trust Act is not listed here. Gujarat Public Trust Act is also not listed here. So those acts can be written down separately. Then the registration number, place of registration, and date of registration. So, like I said, that if your registration is being renewed, as in some states, for example, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, that happens, then the registration number changes, and that is what you may have to write here. Then you have to give here the chief functionary's name and address, where the change name communication will be sent. So you have to give the email address of the association and the mobile number of the chief functionary. Okay, so here we are. So yes, so communication details we've sorted out. Now let's go to saving the form. And by the way, I just thought that the chief functionary word is very confusing. In fact, I was thinking it sounds so much like confectionery, but what exactly is chief functionary is something that is not very clear. We will talk a little more about this later on, when we will understand what is chief functionary. So after this, you have to save the form, so you've done all this, and then you go to save the form. Unfortunately, when you try to save the form, you might get a message saying error in saving data. So that's what happened last time I tried. And maybe this is a temporary glitch in the software, which the FCI department will fix. Or maybe there was something that I was doing wrong, and that's why I couldn't save the form. So once you've saved the form, you will be allowed to give attachments. And again, these attachments are, I think it's still WIP because the full detail is not given of what kind of documents are to be given attached with this. So that was, what I wanted to talk to you about, change of, change in purpose, etc. And that's form FC6B, newly uploaded, and which you can start using. An older form is FC6E, where you have to report changes in board members. Now this is a very, very tricky form, and I will tell you why. So first of all, the rules say that you should upload this form only when the change in board members has reached 50%. But in practice, what is happening is that last year FCI department issued an order saying that you have to report any change in your board, even if it is 1 out of 10 people. So they also gave an opportunity to all the NGOs to file this updated form. I'm sure there were good reasons why the FCI department did this, but unfortunately, those forms have not yet been processed, and those still sort of remain pending when I know people go and look at that. Anyhow, coming back to this question of what is to be reported, you have to report any board change within 15 days. And that means that, if you're adding any person or removing any person, then that must be reported. Second thing you have to keep in mind is that please don't keep any foreigners on your board. Now, persons of Indian origin are allowed, non-resident Indians are allowed, but foreigners, ethnically or originally who had different nationality, they are not allowed on FCRA registered organizations. So please don't keep them on your board. Please don't keep them as your CEO or chief functionary either. And of course, it goes without saying that you should avoid keeping politicians or journalists or government officers on your board, because if you do any of this, then your FCI registration or renewal process will become slower. It is not prohibited to have these people on your board, but certainly the FCI department takes more time to verify. And third thing that you have to remember is that, your chief functionary, because you have FCI registration, your chief functionary should not also be the chief functionary of another NGO which has FCRA, because that the FCI department doesn't like at all. So what are the changes? How do you file this form? So first is that, you have to look at, when you log in, what you will get is a screen which will show you who are the existing members. And here in the existing members, if you want to change any details, then you can do that by, clicking on edit, or even clicking on the delete button.
Sanjay, would you like to take some questions now? We have a few interesting ones which are relevant to the changes.
So I'll just give me 2 more minutes. I'm just going to finish this presentation, then we can start. Yeah. So then, you have to choose this change in key members and give your email address, etc. And then you start adding whatever new members you are going to add or maybe change. So this is the kind of screen that you will see. After doing that, you have to again do the same old rigmarole of uploading the signatures of chief functionary. They might already be there. Then most important, this new affidavit bit. So we are going to talk about affidavit in more detail in the next presentation. But right for now, whenever you are filing form FC6E, then whichever's affidavit is not there, whichever board member's affidavit, you will have to get them and upload them. Without that, you cannot file the form. So, as in this case, for example, we could not file the form because all the affidavits were not available. Okay. Yes, Tirthankar-ji, I have done this, and
thank you, Sanjay. I would just post a couple of questions for you to respond.
Yeah.
There's one question that in a particular state, due to digitization, when new digital certificates are issued to NGOs and NPOs, then whether they're supposed to apply and make a change through Form FC6.
You will need to move the mic a little closer to your mouth.
Yeah. So this question says that if in a particular state, due to new digital certificates for NGOs and NPOs, the old number has changed, then what do the partner need to do here? Do they need to inform it?
I'm sorry, Tirtho, I couldn't hear your question clearly.
There's a question, Sanjay, from a partner. Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes.
Okay. So they have received new digital certificates for their NGOs.
Yeah.
Where their old number is being mentioned as the legacy number. So the question is, do they need to inform it or intimate it in FC6?
Yes, I think so. This Form FC6E, Form FC6B, they should file whenever there is a change in the registration details.
Okay. Another question is that due to this amalgamation of banks, if the detail changes for an organization's FCRA registered bank account, whether they need to upload these changes as well.
So this question is out of syllabus, but I am still going to answer it. Because this deals with bank changes. So yes, if there is any change in your bank details, IFSC code or the branch details due to merger or any other reason, then you must update. You must file the relevant form, change in designated bank account form.
There are some questions on the definition of crease and whether it applies. Would you like to take it in this session?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. So there's this question, Sanjay, that someone is doing sports promotion activities.
Mm-hmm.
Where will it, in which category should it be defined under CREASE?
So this is a very, very complicated issue, because sports itself, it is not clear whether sports is covered under FCRA or not, because and like, I was joking earlier, for example, this person is promoting cricket. So should they be registered as religious organization, or as a social organization, or as a cultural organization? So because cricket is all of these three things. So more seriously speaking, yeah, promotional sports could fall in cultural activities, or it could fall in social activities. So one of these you will have to pick.
There's another one which you would find interesting. Someone is doing training and consultancy as a part of their economic services. And the question is whether it will be taxable or not.
So yes, it is not taxable as such, but it's a very, very complicated issue. I'm not sure we have the time to resolve that, but you have to look at Income Tax Act. That your in most cases economic activities are limited to 20% of your total receipts, unless you are one of the prime charities. So that's the angle that and probably when we do another webinar on this, on income tax, and that's when we can take that question. We need a foundation.
A Section 8 company is asking here that they're engaged in improving livelihood of smallholder farmers through their agri-entrepreneur model. Would it be classified under economic or under social activity?
So I probably know which organization is asking that question, but agriculture, if I remember correctly, we just saw that agriculture is classified as economic activity, and therefore they should be they should seek economic activity also. Although if you go back to our movies, agriculture used to be a very, very social activity at some point of time, but now it's more economic.
Okay. There's another one. Yeah. So would you want to take one last one, Sanjay?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. In this particular organization, all the old directors have resigned. Mm-hmm. Then the question is, how can they file Form 6E? The organization was not aware of this form, and hence they did not do anything. So what is to be done now?
So they will have to file the form, and they will have to get it signed by whoever is the chief functionary on record. But otherwise, let me say that in such cases, the FCI department views these as really, if I may say so, transfer of an NGO to another set of hands. And they might even suspect that what you are doing is that you've picked up an old defunct NGO, and you are you might be using the shell of that NGO for doing new activities. So you must be very, very careful about this. Yeah, Deveshji, what do you say?
Sanjayji, what we have seen sometimes, like we have faced this query, like a social, when we register ourselves under social, so we are under the umbrella clause, which covers all the activities, education, economic. So there sometimes there's a confusion in the sector, like it's better to take a social clause, and it's okay if we don't register an other clause and do an economic activity.
So you see, all of us have these, 5 clause, and FCI department also has 5 clause, and you should select the right clause. Otherwise, you could get clawed by the FCI department. So it's not so simple. I think all these problems are okay as long as no one finds out. For example, I know someone who was driving in Delhi for 20 years without a driving license. Right. So I asked him one day that how do you manage? He said, I've never been caught. I've never been stopped. So that's perfectly fine. But I know that the day I step out of home without my driving license, that's probably the day I will get flagged down and get caught. So just my luck. But So it depends on how you look at these things. But if you are not detected, then it is fine to continue with whatever you are doing.
Right.
Your case comes up for scrutiny. FCI departments are very, very hard-headed about these things.
Right, sir. It's always safe to take a precaution and register ourselves
Yes.
if we are
Yes.
taking some other clause.
Yes,
Activity
and
or other clause.
and you can take all 5.
Hmm.
For example, at least if you're not religious, then at least you can take the rest other 4.
Right.
Only, of course, fortunately, P is not there, so you will not be taking political.
Sanjay ji, what I've seen one thing like we have in one of our CRY partner have faced it. Like they have applied for change in the object clause, but for some reason that object was not present in the trust deed. So they were not aware of it that a trust deed needs to be amended first before applying for FCRA changes. Means,
This object was not included in the trust deed.
yeah, a trust object, but they were undertaking that activity. Yeah.
So this is something that people don't really understand, that actually when a trust or society is formed, it can only do the activities for which it is formed. So for example, let's say that I have set up a trust to take care of dogs, and I don't mention cats over there. Then I can't really start doing cats unless the trust deed is amended.
Right.
In most cases, amending a trust deed is very, very complicated because
Right.
Unless you are in Maharashtra or Gujarat, where the charity commissioners also allows you to amend the trust deed. In other states, the trusts are registered under Registration Act 1908. And once a trust deed is registered, you can't really amend it without at least the objects clause, without going to court. In addition to that, if you today amend your objects clause, your section 12A becomes null and void within 30 days unless you reapply for
Right.
registration. So this is something that people need to be very, very aware of and very careful with.
Sanjay, the last thing, as we are going for the renewal next year, early next year, so if any of the NGO wants to change the object or modify the object, should they do it at this stage or at the time of renewal?
Yes, so that's a very tricky question. It's like whether one should have the cake first or the biscuits
ये
first.
ऐसा है कि आप केक खाना चाहते हैं या बिस्किट पहले खाना चाहते हैं, इसमें आप बहुत ही असमंजस में पड़ जाते हैं.
I would say that it's not really a matter of choice. If there is a change in your objects, in your nature, or in registration, then you are required to file it within 15 days.
Right.
And that's why the FCI department has very smartly separated these 5 forms. Earlier, there was only one FC6 form. So if you filed one form, then all the other changes were, you could not file because there was no option for you to file another form.
Right.
But now you can, at least file 5 different types of forms. Still, although you can't file the same form till the previous one is processed.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Ji. Okay. So, Tito, any other questions or shall we move on?
I think we can move on, Sanjay. We can take the letter once later.
Okay.
Sanjay, there are few hands which is being shown. So can we take 1 or 2 hands? Like?
That's okay. So sure. I think we have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Develop it if you can.
धर्मेंद्र भाई अपना सवाल पूछ सकते हैं आप.
धर्मेंद्र जी आप धर्मेंद्र जी का माइक ऑन करिए.
धर्मेंद्र जी का माइक ऑन है.
आप करिए.
जी का सवाल है, एक जयाना जी का सवाल है, एक रणनीत जी एंड एक रेखा जी का सवाल है.
Okay, so I think let's start with Ranit ji. I think your mic is on. Ranit ji, please. So अगर उन्होंने हिंदी सिलेक्ट किया है तो वो शायद वो सुनाई देगा क्वेश्चन, आदित्य को सुनाई देगा।
हाँ रणजीत जी बताइए।
मैं सर ये जानना चाह रहा हूँ कि मतलब पिछले 2 महीने पहले
जी
2 महीने पहले एक की फंक्शनरी हम लोग के चेंज हो गए थे, तो हम लोगों ने विद इन 15 डेज में फॉर्म 6E जो है उसको भरना शुरू किया। लेकिन जैसे हम लोगों ने लॉग इन किया तो उसमें जो हम लोगों ने 2 साल पहले जो की फंक्शनरी भरे थे वही दिखा रहा था, नया चेंज का ऑप्शन ही उसमें था ही नहीं, एडिट का कोई ऑप्शन नहीं था। तो फिर हम लोगों ने क्या किया कि जितने भी जो डिटेल्स जो उसमें अटैचमेंट मांगते हैं वो सब अटैचमेंट हम लोगों ने FCRA डिवीजन को मेल कर दिया। तो क्या ये सही प्रोसेस रहा या फिर सर ये गलत रहा, मैं यह जानना चाहता हूँ।
नहीं देखिए, ये तो जो मेल जो आप करते हैं ना उसको FCI डिपार्टमेंट कोई डील नहीं करता, बिकॉज अभी FCI डिपार्टमेंट टोटली सिस्टम ओरिएंटेड है और उसको वो एक्नॉलेज भी नहीं करते हैं और डील भी नहीं करते हैं। तो आपको फॉर्म तो ऑनलाइन ही फाइल करना पड़ेगा। और एडिट का ऑप्शन क्यों नहीं आ रहा है वो आप थोड़ा अपने जो ऑडिटर्स हैं उनसे बात करके समझने की कोशिश करिए। या तो आपका पुराना फॉर्म कोई प्रोसेसिंग में अटका हुआ है, या अगर कोई टेक इशू है तो फिर उनको उस पर ईमेल लिखिए FCI डिपार्टमेंट को कि ये टेक इशू है हमारा और इसमें आप ठीक करिए।
नहीं, हम लोगों ने जो अटैचमेंट उसमें मांगते हैं की फंक्शनरी का डिटेल और जो भी ये थे वो सब हम लोगों ने भेजे।
No, like I said, mailing all these attachments to the department doesn't work. You have to file the form online. Then only the FCI department recognize the form. Or if you have a problem, then you can send a mail to the FCI department that, this is the problem we are having, but filing the form through email doesn't work. Okay. Any other question?
सर लेकिन उसमें ऑप्शन ही नहीं था, कोई एडिट का ऑप्शन नहीं था, तो फिर क्या किया जा सकता है ऐसे में? अब क्या, क्योंकि लगभग 1 महीने 2 महीने हो गए सर।
जी, FCI department has a tech function. You please write to their IT cell and they will send an email on their website. There is an IT cell address and they will then try to help you. Okay जी।
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन अपन लोग एक क्वेश्चन और ले सकते हैं।
हेलो सर, नमस्ते। मेरा नाम मनीष है सर, और हमने अभी हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए FCI 3A फॉर्म फाइल
तो जो भेजा गया ये माना नहीं जाएगा सर?
जी माना नहीं जाएगा।
सर मनीष बोल रहा हूँ मैं। हमने अभी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के थ्रू 3A फाइल किया था, फॉर्म 3A, और it's been like 7 to 8 months now. We are not receiving any communication. What would be our next step, sir? क्या कर सकते हैं हम? और
See, you have to check whether your form has been filed successfully or not.
Yeah, that is showing on the website status. It is showing like it's being submitted and it's under process.
Yes, so it is under process. So last 6 months, so as you know that we've all been under process, and we haven't been really doing.
Yeah, so we have done it on 6th of January.
Yes, so but the process is that there will be an IB inquiry, a field inquiry, and
that is being completed, sir. And we also want to change our mail ID and contact detail. Is it possible now?
That you can do by going to the login part. So when you after logging in, on the right hand side top you will see your login details. That's where you can change your ID, etc.
But it's not coming. The only option is coming. You can view your submitted form. That's all the option is coming. Rest there is no option to change any detail.
Okay.
There is an option. There is an option. Maybe I will not be able to tell you where it is, and perhaps you can send us an email, and we will try to help you with that. Okay.
Definitely, sir. Sure. Thank you, sir.
मनीष जी आप वो उसका स्क्रीनशॉट लेके आप मेल कर दो. We'll try to get that resolved.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sanjay ji, I think we need to stop the questions here for some time.
Ji.
And We will take the remaining questions after the second presentation is done.
Ji.
Thanks, Sanjay, for the first presentation. We can continue with the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me try to figure out where the second presentation is. And okay, so now I have to. Yes, so let's get into FCRA renewal. And when you talk about FCRA renewal, you have to file this form FC3C, and that's what we are going to talk about. So of course, all this is you already done. Yeah. So what is the renewal process? So in terms of renewal process, essentially, FCI department, in 2010, when the new law came, they had made a provision that you will have to get your FCI renewed every 5 years. And the basic reason for this was that, there were nearly 40 or 42,000 NGOs who had FCI registration at that time, but hardly 16 or 17,000 out of them were actually filing their returns. So the government thought that maybe, the rest have gone defunct or they have, stopped working, and yet their FCI registration is still valid. So the government, said that we must fix this, and therefore the renewal provision was introduced. So now, so everyone, who had old registration, maybe since 1984 or, before 2011, all their registrations expired, in 2016, when they were all renewed, together. So all those registrations will now expire on 31st October 2021. However, that's not all. There will be other organizations who are on a slightly different cycle. For example, anyone who received their FCI registration after 2011 will be on a different renewal cycle. And that's what, they need to take into account. So you should really go to FCI website or look at your registration letter and figure out when is your FCI registration expiring. We found a couple of cases where, people's FCI registration was already expiring, and they had not realized it. So anyhow, once you know that when your FCI registration is expiring, you have to apply for renewal at least 6 to 12 months before expiry of the registration. Now, the minimum time you must apply for is 6 months, and the maximum time you can apply is 12 months. So, for example, if your registration expired in October 21, and you go to the FCRA website today and try to log in to file your FC6 FC3C, you will not be able to do it, because you can do it only when your registration is just about only 1 year left to expire. COVID extension, many people may be hoping that for COVID, some extension will be given. I'm not sure that will happen. In any case, as of now, there is no extension for COVID. And the renewal fees has been actually increased to 1,500 rupees, which will have to be paid online. So these are the documents you should collect before, this time. We would highly recommend that you should apply for FCI registration before, as soon as possible, as soon as the registration window opens, because you will remember that last time when FCI registrations were renewals were happening, I know many people experienced delays. In fact, some of the people, their FCI has not been renewed at all. But the people who face delays, they face great difficulties. So you should really make sure that you apply as early as possible, giving the FCI department enough time to to deal with your application. So these are the things that you need for this. Just as if you were making a dish in the kitchen, you would collect the ingredients. In the same way, you please collect all these documents and keep them ready for filing your FCI registration. Of these, the most important is the fourth item. You will need a separate FCI affidavit from each key board member, and that's going to be a little bit tricky. So, we will discuss that in detail. But for now, after you file your renewal, just keep in mind, some of the problems that occurred last time. Some people filed the form, but they did not pay the fees after that. And therefore, their FCRA, was not processed at all. Their renewal was not processed at all. So that's something for you to, keep in mind. So that's something for you to keep in mind, that why their FCRA, registration was not allowed. It was because, because it was never processed. And some cases people had actually filed, form FC3B, FC3A for registration, and they did not file FC3C. And of course, the forms were different at that time. So the other thing you have to remember is that you should give the correct mobile number and email ID in form. Now, for example, when people were registering for this workshop, I was told that some of them had given wrong email IDs. So if you give a wrong email ID, if you make a spelling mistake in your email ID, or, then the email will not reach you. And there's no point in blaming the FCI department for that. Similarly, if you give the wrong mobile number, or, you give a mobile number and you change that later on, then again, it will not work, because you will have to keep the same mobile number and same email ID till the time your FCRA is actually renewed. Otherwise, you will not get these messages. You will have to log in at fcraonline.nic.in for finding out what are the questions, what are the status. And of course, we highly recommend that. Once you filed your FCI renewal, every morning after taking a bath and doing your morning, prayers or whatever, or your cup of tea, go to fcraonline.nic.in and check whether anything has happened on your FCI renewal. And who knows, there may be a message there, and typically that clarification window is open only for 15 days. If you don't answer those questions in 15 days, then the clarification window closes and you will be unable to, you will run from pillar to post to figure that out. FC3C, how do you fill FC3C? FC3C is a relatively simple form to file. When you open it, you will see this kind of information, a welcome screen, which will show you your existing information. Of course, we have removed some of the information here. So after that, you will have to, you can also, what you can do is that you can change some of this information. Wherever the box is not gray, that information you can change. Whatever boxes are gray, that information is taken from the system, you cannot change that. Now, towards the lower part of the screen, you will see that main aims and objects association. You are allowed to tick the nature here also. However, that doesn't really help. Last time we had suggested to people that you should do this and hopefully your nature will change. But it seems it didn't work. The FCI department did not change their nature. So now in any case, you have a new form, and that's what you will have to use, as we've discussed just now. After the basic information, again, you will have this option to, edit and make changes in your board. If, the board list as per FCI records is different from, the one that is actually your board. And this is how, you can change that, update that list. You can even add new members. However, remember that still you will have to file form FC6E. This is only to make the process smooth. it is not an option, for not filing FC6E. So I had mentioned earlier that we are going to tell you who's a chief functionary. So chief functionary, of course, is a word which is not defined anywhere in the FCRA Act or law or anywhere. But it means someone, who's really in charge, someone who says, okay, the buck stops here. And these, if when you have a list of 4 or 5 board members, from the drop down list, you have to select one of these designations, these 5. These 5 are the magic designations by which a person will become, will be treated as chief functionary in your form, in the FCR data record. If you, for example, if you designate someone as vice president, then that person will not be eligible to be treated as chief functionary. So the rest of the information is broadly the same as your FC3 A or FC3B. I think maybe this is the same form which they have used. Some of the information is not really relevant, but some of it is. For example, here you have to give, you have to say whether your members have been involved in any kind of illegal activities. And if they have been, then you have to say that, because otherwise the FCI department finds out, then it will become a big problem for you. Then you must also say that, if you are related to another organization which has already been granted FCI registration. Now, the way this question is phrased, sometimes it gets confusing. People think that, it means that if you are, let's say that, for example, you are associated with a foreign organization. You are the Indian affiliate of a foreign organization. The foreign organization doesn't have FCI registration. So should you mention that here? No, because if you do, you will have to give the FCI number also. And that is not possible because the organization doesn't have FCI number. So therefore, it means that only those affiliated organizations which also have FCI registration should be listed here. Designated FC account, that detail you can give here again, and especially if there is any change in email ID or telephone number, IFSC code, etc. All that information you can update here. Remember, of course, you still have to file the form FC6C for change of designated bank account. Then utilization account details, those also you can update here through this form. Especially bank email, date of opening account, etc., phone number, etc. So all that information you can update here. Then again, you will be asked for this information that so this, to some extent, this information is very irrelevant because you have already been receiving FCI. That's why you are asking for FCI renewal. But like I said, that this form seems to be a derivative of the form FC3A or B, and therefore all this information is being sought. So you should fill that information, and that shouldn't really be a problem. Then there is some additional information to be asked, similar information related to prior permission, registration, etc. So you should, mostly you will be selecting no or yes, as the case may be. Then, there is this tricky question that whether you have close links with any other organization or branches which has been refused registration or prior permission or renewal. Now, this is a very, very tricky one because, it's very difficult to figure out what does closed link mean, because closed links is not a word which is defined in law. So you will just have to use your common sense and, say if you are closely associated, if you sort of, maybe, you have the same management and you work along on the same issues, then probably you want to say yes. But otherwise, closed links is a very, very vague concept, and which is very, very difficult to define and say yes or no. Then, you will have to, of course, the signature of the chief function is required. And finally, again, that affidavit. So this for FC3C renewal, as I said earlier, you will have to give the affidavit for each and every board member, because this is a new requirement that has been introduced recently. And what is that affidavit? We are going to talk about in Key Challenge. So this is the affidavit. This affidavit has to be typed on a stamp paper and then, signed and notarized. And this affidavit will have to be scanned and uploaded. Now, each of the board members will have to do this, including your chief functionary. Anyone who's listed in your form, their affidavit is required. And the affidavit is separate for each one. So you can't do, one standard affidavit for everyone and then scan and upload it. Now, this is a little bit like putting the cat among the pigeons. So, as you can see, there is some text which is highlighted here. And that is the text which you need to keep in mind. You will have to explain to your board members also. Because board members are going to ask you that if we are giving this signed notarized affidavit, then what is our liability? So, we have done a little bit of work on this. It seems that it's basically not intended really to punish anyone or to make life difficult for everyone, but it is more intended to help people become more serious about their role in an NGO. So sometimes, the FCI department has, sort of faced situations where people have said that, look, I'm not associated with this NGO at all. I don't know anything about this NGO. They just come and, get me to sign some papers from time to time. So that is why now the FCI department said that, look, if you're going to be a board member, you have to be serious about it. And that's why this, has been added. So just give me a minute, please. So, like I was saying that, these are the various kinds of liabilities. These are not beyond what is already there. And mostly, I think it is symbolic for people to understand, and also for the FCI department to isolate and identify those cases where a person is not really given their consent, but they have been, they are being shown the board. So nevertheless, the board members are going to be, very, very worried about this. And you will have to explain that what the affidavit is and what does it mean for them. And this should be done right now, because, otherwise, because they will also need some time to figure out and understand whether or not they want to sign this for you. So one thing that you can do is to tell them that, look, we are going to maybe, have some kind of a compliance audit or a mechanism by which, you will get, we will be surer that we are not violating FCRA, and therefore you will not be at risk. And even then, if some people are not comfortable with that, then, you can simply allow them to drop out. You should not really try and do anything like, well, no one knows this board person's signature, and maybe no one is going to look at it, and maybe I will just copy paste some old signature and file the form. That would be very, very risky. It will be forgery, and you will definitely get into trouble if you were the one who had done this. So what you have to do is to do all these things so that you are ready for filing the FCI renewal in time. One is that the board member names you should try and update online. You should obtain all the affidavits. Then chief functionary's name should be updated online. And you should also check, whether there's any overdue filing or, pending approval. If you forget to file, then what happens? So, you are allowed to apply for up to at least 1 year after, the date, the due date, and there is an additional fee of rupees 5,000 for that. If your FCRA renewal is delayed, what happens? Then, your FCRA actually expires on the date, well, 31st October 21 in most cases. And after that, you should not accept any foreign contribution unless you have your application in, unless you have your renewal certificate in hand. So recently someone had said that, look, we filed in time and our renewal has not been given. So is it our fault? That's not the issue. The issue is that, the law does not allow you to do that. Your FCRA is expired. You can continue using the old fund, but you cannot accept any more new money. What are going to be the likely areas of difficulty for your renewal? So one is that if you have any foreigners on board, then you will most likely be denied FCRA renewal. The second is, as we said earlier, if you have a common chief functionary for multiple FCRA organizations, that again will cause problems. Third and more common thing is that because you have new members who have not been verified on the FCI department. I've heard my good friend, Martin Pinto, who's a very, very senior chartered accountant. I believe he's also here today. So he had said that, these people will be, verifying all those cases where new members have been added, and that could cause delays. Another issue that possibly could create problems is that you have been overspending on administration. Now, most NGOs think that, well, we spend only 10 to 15% on administration, so how can we be overspending? Well, the problem is that FCRA department defines administration as in a different manner. As you can see in this chart, all staff salary, apart from things like rent, board salary, fees, travel, overheads, all staff salary is treated as admin expenditure. And only, money which is for program activities, or if you are running a school, then in your case, teacher salary. If you're running a hospital, then doctor salary. Or if you are involved in training and research, then, maybe surveyor salary, analyst salary, trainer salary. These are treated as program expenses. In all other cases, all other expenses are treated as admin expenses. And if your admin expense is over 50% and you are reporting it, then you will probably find it difficult to get FCRA renewal, or you will have to at least apply for compounding of that. And if your expenses are over 50% and you are not reporting it, then if an FCRA audit takes place, then you could get into trouble. So you should really try and fix this as early as possible. Okay. So, Tirthankar ji, I've finished this presentation.
So, Sanjay ji, there are quite a few questions. I will just put it up one by one to you.
Yeah.
To start with, what is the amount of stamp paper that is to be used for issuing this affidavit?
So that will vary from one region to other, but I think it's 10 rupees. 10 rupees is probably, the value.
Sanjay, sometimes what happens, the feedback what we get is 10 rupees stamp paper is difficult to get. So we can take a higher value stamp paper also. That should not be an issue.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah. Another question that I'm receiving is that earlier in 2019, when the window opened for change or updating the list of board members, someone has updated their list and then there was no change there. Now in September 20, when the going to fill up their form FC6E due to change of one of the members, the website is showing that under process, application already submitted. So I presume they're unable to put up the name of the new person there.
Yes, so that is going to be a problem with many people, because I think the FC6E, which was filed in last year, they have still not been approved for some technical reason or the other. But I think you will still be able to file your renewal form without any difficulty, because in the renewal form, as I showed you, there is an option for you to update the board members and proceed with the filing of the form. So if there is an additional change which you are not able to report, then I think the only option you have is to probably write an email to the FCR department saying that, see, we have filed this form so long ago and it has not been processed, and in the meanwhile we have gone ahead and made some more changes in our board. So what should we do? So that will bring the matter on record, and you will not be held, hopefully held liable for not reporting the change. But this is really a tech issue with the FCI department. Their IT system is not so robust as, for example, the company law or the income tax, and therefore, they are really struggling with this problem.
Okay. Another question in similar line was, though we have changed the board members, but the IGR has not been received. So what is to be done?
Sorry?
Though we have a change in the board member, but the IGR has not yet approved. In this situation, can we upload the member details in the FCRA site?
What has not been approved? I'm sorry.
The IGR.
What is IGR?
Even I'm not sure, Sanjay, because that has come up as a question.
Okay, so maybe no.
So maybe someone who has issued this question can give us the full form. We will respond shortly.
I think they can post it in the Q&A box.
Yeah.
And, otherwise, the mic can be a little confusing.
Another question that is coming up is that whether a chief functionary can hold a position as a chief functionary in more than one organization.
Yes, so I remember when I was in school in the 6th class, if I would ask the teacher, can I go to the washroom? She will say you can, but you may not. So the answer is the same, that yes, a person can be chief functionary of multiple organizations, but they should not be, because the FCI department will not allow the FCI registration to be processed where there is same chief functionary. In fact, in some cases, what happens is that if one of your chief functionaries, one of your board members is associated with an organization whose FCI is under threat, then even your case may be taken up for scrutiny. So one should really, try and make sure that one doesn't, do these kind of things.
Sanjay, there is a connected question to this, that whether chief functionary needs to be a board member or not.
No, not necessary. See, like I said, chief functionary is really not defined anywhere in law, and they are just looking at the person who's really calling the shots. So anyone can be the chief functionary irrespective of their designation.
The IGR is Inspector General of Registrations.
Okay, so I think that's again, so it depends on which state, but mostly if the board change has happened, then you should just give the approval. You should give copy of the board resolution, and the registrar really has no regulatory powers. That's only to take on record and give a copy of the board resolution. With that, your form will be processed.
So we have another question here, that someone has filed for their FCRA renewal in August 2019 and the registration deemed to be seized on March 20.
उनकी registration March 20 में खत्म हो गई। एक साल से ज़्यादा हो गया रिन्यूअल एप्लीकेशन पे, तो उसमें क्या कर सकते हैं?
And when the organization has tried to approach, has mailed them, it has also reverted that application is still in process.
तो FCRA department को उन्हें mail किया,
Because hope lies eternal. and they should just wait for the department to process. If they've said that the application is still in the process, then they should do that. Deveshi, I wanted to ask you, last you were mentioning something about how CRY looked at this as far as its partners were concerned last time. That you had no cases where FCI renewal was denied. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, Sanjay ji.
I mean, how did you manage that?
Yeah, Sanjay ji. Actually, but the first time when the renewal came, before that, it was a lifetime registration. But the first time when the renewal came, we were like, it was quite a task. But we were working around with 200 partners that time, 180, 200 partners. So we worked with the partners, and over the years, as because we have been working with the partners on the compliance issues, and they were quite aware of the things. But we were a bit scared exactly how it's going to turn up. But after the renewal process was completed, we observed that not a single partner registration was cancelled. So,
yeah, that's
so we were quite surprised, and on the happy side, then we have done analysis that why this has happened. So we have spent quite some time on analyzing what was the reason for such a 100% turnout. The reason was basically, what we observed that the NGOs were doing what was required to be done over the years. So when the renewal came in, it was not a surprise to them, the kind of information which was asked.
I think that's important, not to look at renewal as something frightening. It's like, just like any other process in life, and you should just make sure that your forms are filed and everything is in shape, and trust the department to do the right thing by you.
Right.
Tito, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's the best way to approach this. As Devesh already said, that 5 years back when CRY partners had been applying for the renewal, it was the first time and there was a panic in the sector. But I guess that if there's proper housekeeping and if we inform them in advance and they are careful, I think this can be, managed quite easily.
Right. So I see that there are 169 open questions. You answered 46 questions. So we have a little bit of time. Do you want us to go through these questions?
Yeah, Sanjay, there are a few questions.
That's what's
like what does the key functionary means in the affidavit? Actually, I'm seeing, Sanjay, there is a bit of a confusion with regard to key functionary and chief functionary word.
So yes, so that's a question which I also want to. I want an answer to. Who's the key functionary? So see, I believe this is because FCI department, thinks in terms of practical issues rather than very legal issues. So key functionary is not defined anywhere in law. But I would say that anyone who takes decisions for the board, first of all, anyone who's a board member, a trustee is automatically a key functionary. In addition to that, anyone like a senior, whatever is their designation, anyone who's not even a board member but is responsible for day-to-day functioning or management of the organization, they are also key functionaries. So senior level people who take organization related decisions, who sort of deal with government authority. So it's more in terms of practical aspects. And I would say that we should not argue and get into semantics of this. Rather, practical approach should be taken, pragmatic approach should be taken. And anyone you feel is someone who is very important for your organization, who helps you in running the organization, flag them as key functionaries, but there is no legal definition.
Right. Sanjay, there's one more interesting question. The question says that the organization is doing a relief work under COVID, but it may not be related to the object under which they are registered. So how does it work there?
So this is This is, this is a very, very important issue. And I think you'll probably want to do a separate webinar on this.
Okay.
Because COVID and COVID related issues, accounting, audit, there are a number of issues which are coming up. But yes, if COVID is not within your objects, I mean, obviously COVID is not within anyone's objects, but the activity which you are doing under COVID, if that's not part of your objects, then you shouldn't really, you're not really supposed to take that up. So that's the legal position. Now, in practice, of course, you may take a different view that, well, I will do it because it's very important for the community where I am working. That's a separate matter.
Right.
So I will request all the panelists to also simultaneously type answers to the questions,
right.
if you can.
Right.
And also, of course, keep raising them so that, those questions are also being answered.
Repeat. Sanjay, there's one more question which is very specific to the renewal fees. It says that to whom the renewal fees will be paid and in which form, and when we have to pay the renewal fee.
Renewal fees has to be paid online. Renewal fees has to be paid online. And you have to pay it to the FCI department, and for that you probably have to use your own credit card or debit card, because in most cases the NGOs are not allowed to have online banking.
Right.
Okay, so let's work the questions in this manner, Devesh Tirtho. If while one of you is asking the question, the other person can maybe type the answers. Aditya can also do this.
Right.
I'm really scared. We have 173 open questions, and I don't know how much time it will take us to do that. And unless you want to have dinner, if you want to have dinner today, you should start answering those questions.
Right. Tirthankar?
I'm actually trying to respond by typing.
Yes. So Deveshi, you can ask the questions.
There's one more question which says that can the CEO stay for lifetime with bringing in resolution in the board?
Sorry?
Can a CEO takes a lifetime position by bringing a resolution?
In law, you can. But from NGO practice, it's not something which is highly recommended.
Right.
Sanjay, there's something I want you to just have a look here. There's a question that there's an FCRA registered charitable trust, and they have now incorporated a Section 8 company in June 2020. So can this new company take over the old trust?
So can
and trustees and directors remain the same in both the entities.
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. This is a 2018 registered charitable trust. They have now incorporated, actually because new questions are coming up, so they have incorporated a Section 8 company in June 2020. Would it be possible for the new company to take over the old charitable trust? The trustees and the directors are same in both the entities.
No. So that is, but before we proceed, I just want to set the protocol here. So, like suppose you and I are doing. Deveshi, please type some questions.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, I'm doing that,
my BP is going up looking at these questions.
I am doing it, sir.
So yeah. And we will play that game, like whoever's asking, the other one will respond typing. So coming back to this question, I think I am familiar with this question. This had come to me directly also. See, a trust and a company are two different things. So you cannot say that we as a trust, we've incorporated this company. That may have happened in an informal sense, but in a legal sense, that's not true. So the company cannot really take over the trust as such. And in any case, the process is extremely complicated. What can be done is that the trust can donate all its assets. subject to the company having all the required permissions, FCRA, income tax, etc. The trust can donate all its assets, etc., to the company, and or the employees of the trust can migrate to the new company, and the trust can then be wound up by an order of court. You will have to go to the court to get an order to wind up, but there is no system for conversion of a trust into a company that I am aware of, and it's an extremely complicated process in most cases, and very expensive too.
So then another question, I think you've already responded, but people would still need some clarification. Suppose at the time of expiry, they have some FC money remaining in their bank account. So are they permitted to use that?
Yes.
While they're not allowed to take any new funds till the time they get a renewal?
Yes, yes. And technically speaking, they should continue filing form, what is it, FC4, till the time the money is exhausted. But in practice, most people will not be able to file an FC4 once their FCRA is expired, because the FCRA department bars you from using the online facility.
Another one, Sanjay ji, if due to a situation we are unable to file the change in board members as their affidavits have not been received, as they're not all based out of one city, particular city, what penalty will be there? This is a society.
Yes, so penalty on what? Not filing the affidavits?
Right.
No, there will be no penalty. You will not be able to file your form. That's the penalty.
Okay.
See, you should take the FCI department very seriously on this. And if the trustees are located in multiple cities or whatever, see, quite often we think that the FCI department is, doing this out of some kind of, how should I say, some kind of, negative thinking. That's not true. They are aware of things which we are not aware of, you and I as citizens of India, and they have a responsibility. And one of them is this. So maybe, it causes a lot of pain and effort to do that, but you will have to get those affidavits. If people are not giving their affidavits, then they will have to be asked to step down from the board. There's no third option. Okay. G.
Okay, another question, Sanjay ji. Whether or not FCRA fund can be refunded to a foreign donor if a part of the fund remains unutilized at the end of the project period for some reason or the other. Kindly let us know whether this is permissible under FCRA. If yes, what are the procedures applicable for getting approval from MHA or RBI for such refunds?
You were reading out the question. I couldn't understand the question. It was so fast.
The question is that I guess there is an unspent balance remaining with the organization from an FC donor. Now they want to refund it to their donor back. So they want to know whether it is permissible under FCRA. First question.
Yeah, so let me answer first that one. So see, it is neither permissible, it is neither prohibited nor permitted. So it is in limbo. And in practice, what happens is that most banks will not allow you to remit the money abroad till the time they get FCRA clearance. And the FCI department will never give you clearance. We have some cases where some very reputed organizations which are very closely associated with the government, they have not received, their permission to transfer the money for 4-5 years. So please don't be hopeful on this issue.
I guess you've already responded to the rest of the question.
Okay. Gee. So Aditya, if you're not translating in Hindi, are you translating in Hindi? If you're not, then maybe you can help us answer some of those questions.
And there are quite a few questions that they've already filed their Form 6E along with affidavit, but they have not received any response from the FCRA department. What is to be done?
They filed what?
What happens if the registration, they've already filed Form 6E along with affidavit, but no answer from the FCRA department yet.
Yeah, so that's always a difficulty, because FCI department, I think, is very badly swamped. They have 20,000 NGOs to monitor, and they have probably only 20 or 30 people So don't worry about that. A renewal is coming up, then you file for renewal in any case. Only, like I said, difficulty will be that you cannot file another form FC6E till the time the old one is processed. And for that, all you can do is to keep sending mails to the FCR department. And sooner or later, some kind soul will look at your mail and maybe, resolve the matter for you. Okay. So, yeah.
Sanjay, there is one more. There's question.
I want to ask you one thing. When I'm answering a question, are you also
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
in the list?
We are doing that.
Okay.
Say there is a very generic question. If by mistake some amount is deposited into FCRA account, by someone else without intimating the organization, there is a very specific question. Actually, it says that the account number is available on our website, and someone has deposited the money in their account without informing them.
So you see, this is a very, very important question. I would like to briefly share my, unhappiness that NGOs have become so trusting that they are, broadcasting their bank account numbers in their audited accounts. They're putting it up on their website and everything. Now, I don't know whether you are aware or not, but 3-4 years ago, Bank of Bangladesh was hacked. So, your account can easily be hacked. So please don't, first of all, share your bank account number in this manner. Secondly, if you are an NGO and you are sharing your bank account number on the internet site, whether it is CRY or anyone else, you are at risk of this problem because some kind soul will deposit the money in your account and they will not know whether to deposit the Indian account or the FCRA account. And suppose you don't have FCRA, then you are in huge trouble. So anyway, if it has happened, they've deposited the wrong account, then either, you can get your bank to ask them to transfer the money back. If you can't do that, and when the FCI department discovers it, they will ask you to pay compounding fees. That's all. So
there's one more question. Like if there's a change in the member's details, just like a member residential or office address, so do they need to update the address to the department if there's a change with the specific member details?
No, see, that's a very good question. I also wondered about that, but I think that's not required. But when you file form FC3C for renewal, that's the time for you to make these updates.
A very basic question, Sanjay ji, but I guess it is helpful for all, that where to download the format of the affidavit?
It's available on the FCRA website.
Sanjay, there's a question, FCRA bank account should be a saving account or a current account? I think that it can be anyone.
Yes, it can be. And actually, let me also clarify that trusts and NGOs are allowed to have savings account. That's an RBI regulation. And there has been a lot of confusion on this, that some banks are saying that you can't have savings accounts. That's not true. The prohibition is only on, organizations, or rather, government departments. For example, block development officers, they are not allowed to have a savings account because the government worried that they are not spending the money, they're just earning interest on that. Yep.
Sanjay, there is one more generic question. It says, like in case of a CSR funds, if there is a confusion with regard to the FCRA status, FC status of the CSR organization, then what is the liability of the organization?
Sorry?
If the CSR donor is not clear about the FC status, FC funds, and organization takes the money in the local bank account, then what is the legal implication on the organization?
The legal implication is that, if you are discovered, then you will be asked to pay compounding fees. And this is a very, very complex issue. And, we will, if we organize another, if Develop Aid organizes another workshop on this, on FCRA, then we will certainly deal with it in detail. But many companies are confused that they are, foreign source or not. So we believe that every company that is a subsidiary of a foreign company is a foreign source, despite the amendment which happened in 2016. Okay. So please make sure that you are, and most companies of course insist that we are an Indian company, even international brands which are represented here, but they are not, in terms of, because FCRA defines foreign source in a different manner.
Yeah, there's another question here I would like to ask you. On the 50% ceiling of admin expenses, it says that if an FCRA registered NGO subgrants to one or more NGOs which have FCRA, will the salary and office expenses of the subgrantees be clubbed to arrive at the figure?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
An FCRA organization has received a grant of which they have to, they are willing to put subgrant to more FCRA, one or more FCRA NGOs. The query is whether 50% ceiling on admin expenses will apply to the salary and office expenses of the subgrantees budget as well to arrive at the 50% threshold.
Well, let's hope that the FCI department is not, participating in this webinar. Otherwise, that's the new change that they will bring to the rules. So I don't think so, but this is a gray area, frankly. Okay, so I think maybe what we should do now is to Devesh, if you can start wrapping up the webinar. We will start answering the questions by typing them out, right?
Right.
So you can start, wrapping up.
Yeah.
Or there's anything else?
Sanjay, I'm just seeing at the question, like if some question needs to be discussed. So just one thing, we'll like how should an NGO be prepared themselves for FC renewal under COVID environment? Like because what we have seen, like the partners are facing difficulties with regard to the operations of their offices because of the containment zones and things like that. So it's not a question basically what we are facing. So we are telling all our partners, like we should not wait for the last moment to come to be ready with the documents. And we should start working on the documents what is required to be filed as early as possible. Because last 5 to 6 months have impacted because of COVID.
See, let me make it very clear. See, the Government of India policies, and this they have said several times, that we are not looking for foreign contribution. We are not, our policy is not to encourage foreign contribution. So please don't tell the government that, we couldn't file for FCR renewal because there was COVID. After all, if there's COVID, yes, there can be individual problems, but you cannot say that, we should be exempted to file FCR registration because there is COVID. People are doing all those things, and this has to happen online. So please find, your innovative approaches, and use, really do a lot of wonderful work. And I've been fortunate to, visit all over India and see how difficult conditions they operate in. So look at this as one more challenge, but please try and file for your FCR renewal in time. Don't, avoid getting into that frame of mind that, okay, it's COVID and, maybe we will not do it and maybe there will be an extension. There may be an extension, there may not be an extension. So just think that, if your FCR is not renewed on time, there will be a dry period when you will not be able to receive foreign contribution, and your organization may well come to a grind to a halt. I have seen this happening. So please, be more proactive on this.
Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Ji.
So let us wrap this thing.
Yeah.
I would like to
and
thank.
before we wrap, I want to tell you one thing, that I am going to be sitting here, and we will answer all these questions after
Right.
4:30 by
Right.
either typing the answer or answering them live. So if your question is still
Right.
remaining unanswered, please stay on. And I will request the Developer team to extend the webinar beyond 4:30 so that we
Right.
can continue doing this.
All the questions can be answered.
Yes.
Right. So,
People are asking whether the presentation will be shared with them.
Yes, we will be sharing the presentation.
This will be available on YouTube, I think.
YouTube, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
So,
So officially, let me wrap up the webinar today. Once again, thank you so much, Aditya, Tirthankar, and Sanjay ji, for a very fruitful webinar. I would like to thank the CRY communication team also for taking us to a wider audience, and the developer team who has worked overnight. And it was like, we have planned this workshop just 7 days back. So the developer team was working throughout the nights to make this webinar happen. I would like to thank each one of you who have participated today for your time. This is the first of a series of webinar what we have planned. Actually, we are planning a series of webinar on different topics. The next topic which we are planning to have is on specifically on COVID, because what we have seen that most of the NGOs are struggling with how to deal on accounting during the COVID period and COVID grants, especially doing the COVID relief work with being legally compliant. So in the next webinar, it will be purely focused on COVID times and how to do the accounting and how to be legally compliant during the COVID times. We are looking forward to see you again then on the upcoming webinar. We'll be sharing the webinar link shortly. So please register as soon as you get the link. Thank you so much. Please take care and stay safe. Thank you, Sanjay ji, once again.